In this episode of Ghost in the Shell Explained, we'll be diving into Episode 4, from dead soul bots to corrupt officials, and a discussion on class systems. There was a lot of complexity despite its episodic structure. Some of you may have noticed. This is also the episode that will go on to be the foundation for Ghost in the Shell 2, Innocence, the sequel to the Ghost in the Shell 1995 breakout hit. There is a lot to break down and discuss here, so let's dive right into the cyberpunk of it all. It's Christmas in July or August. When you use code SeaTactics and buy a GG tub, you will get a free item up to 6 purchases. Just one purchase of, say, the new Bleach GG or the Jujutsu Kaisen GG will get you a free waifu cup and even more, up to 6. This is a limited time event, so get your top-ups while you can. This first scene was highly interesting and really is the anchor point of the episode, and curiously, it's a resolution point as well, making it a proper episodic structure, something more reminiscent of Standalone Complex. We see a robot cleaning the property of the Colonel, who is also surrounded by other similar, very interestingly looking bots. This guy clearly knows what's up, because this is probably, I think, what everyone would do in a future where we could have robots who could do whatever we want. We make them book some women with barely any clothes to speak of. However, the bot malfunctions and her eyes turn feral, and she attacks the Colonel, only to be saved by his other robot, a Tomliand. The mystery of this episode is really why this Tomliand in particular went crazy. 2 days after this incident, there is another incident regarding even more crazed robots, which Section 9 has to deal with. They are to specifically capture a particular Hanka Precision Tomliand model, meaning that this issue seems to only be with the Tomliand link from Hanka. And can I say that the Major here, oh my god, she just looks incredible in these glasses. I love that look on her. One of the police finds the Tomliand in question. It's gone completely insane and is actually eating someone. So, I don't know why I laughed at that. So it rampages in the street, covered in blood, until Batou uses his power fist from clearly Fallout to completely decimate the bot. Turns out that this bot is not a Tomliand and was just a regular bot. Now, this is the beginning of some friction between Batou and Togusa for this episode, which I thought was a brilliant addition. Batou is mad at Togusa because he felt he was given the runaround by not being told he was going after a regular bot instead of a Tomliand. Batou's argument is he should have been told about this as he is his senior, while Togusa doesn't feel that way, as seniority as a system is ignored, which is important to note because this was decided by Aramaki back in episode 2 that there would be no ranks. That's an interesting plot thread for this episode, because we have this clash of young and old, which overall really enhances the writing of this episode. The young feel as if their opinions should be weighed more heavily in decision-making because they have a more youthful and fresh perspective on the world. They're more in touch. They are the most in touch with everything that is happening and thus feel more important than older people. On the other hand, older people have more wisdom and knowledge and thus feel they should have their opinions heard and be catered to as well. So both Togusa and Batou are clashing because of their age, pretty much. However, something that never changes is the protests going on around them, as the Major and Batou make very salient comments for really any era of humanity post-industrialization. Corpses don't have rights, and machines have their own lobbyists. Batou then says that these are the righteous masses, the types of people who care more about themselves and feeling righteous than to look after other people. This really hits home for me, and I'm pretty sure it's every single person watching this video right now, because this is just how humans are for the most part. Not that it can't be changed or dealt with much better, it could, but the selfishness of people to pick sides simply because it's like a sport to them, that's a very real, tangible thing that we can see throughout most of documented world history. Around the world in our current climate, this is being weaponized as people of all walks of life are being forced to choose sides with something right now because of the proliferation of, you guessed it, the internet. You have Xbox versus PlayStation, Republican or Democrat, your team versus my team. This kind of primal instinct in humans is such an easy way to control the masses that corporations in this world and our own are using it to turn people into lobbyists for machines or for humans. Whether or not it's wrong or right really doesn't matter here. At the heart of it all, what's happening is corporate manipulation. Our own world isn't much different from the Major's, which really should be a wake-up call for all of us, but like Aramaki said in the previous episode, life is so fleeting that nobody really cares. The Major and Batou go to the source to see just what the hell is happening with these bots. And wow, this scene was so fascinating. Turns out that they're all going feral at a rate of 99%. The reason is because they're all being discarded, and due to this 99% defective rate, without proper maintenance, get overloaded with consumerism and information, and their spirit dies. Doesn't that sound suspiciously like our current time? Batou plays upon the idea of youth and wisdom, and suggests that they just program the bots to roll with the punches. This is a hardened outlook that, while fair for someone like Batou, who had to learn that himself over time and grew up in a different world, isn't so easy in a world that he didn't grow up in. Each era and time period has its own unique sets of challenges and hurdles that the previous generations can really, all they can do is really look at and support the up-and-comers. Batou's outlook is to throw them to the wolves and basically get over it, which is harsh, but I think misses the point because of the aforementioned reasons. He's just out of touch. These bots are actually just a clever allegory for the entire thing I just said as well. These bots are the new generations and the old generations being thrown out to rot because they're being chewed up by society. These bots aren't being helped, but are instead being blasted with consumerism. They are the products, not the people consuming, and thus want to stop being used by society for their corporate gain. They want rights, just as humans do, which feeds into the brain-dead masses who are selfish and only are on this side because it's their team's side. In the end, nobody is being helped on either side. These bots are still piling up in the streets. What actual justice would look like is people taking in these defective bots, getting them help by debugging their brains when they get overloaded to stop their souls from dying and becoming feral, and then from there fighting for legislation. That is all to say that the clashes we're seeing in this episode of young versus old or robots versus humans is once again just noise and ineffective bullshit. What really matters is putting aside differences and understanding that the true enemy is not from within, but from supporting humans for the sake of supporting humans and robots, of course, and then fighting the actual enemy, which is corporatism. Now, that's a naive outlook to some, but at the end of the day, this is actually the mentality you need to have to make change in a world with stagnation. You push forward having these somewhat naive and hopeful ideas and hope for the best, but in the end, you compromise on those ideas with others and find the best solution that can be had. In other words, working together and uniting to find actual solutions rather than just fairy tale make-believe naive notions of equality, which is hard work and impossible to measure in a world that is constantly changing and evolving around the laws and rules of said world. Like software, humans need to update periodically too. The Colonel, on the other hand, is really as selfish as they come. Aramaki and the Major go to question him over the Tomliand incident and immediately shows his true colors here. He calls the Major a bot with white blood that he can smell across the room. Oh boy, I don't love this guy. But I do love how the Major flips him off. That is a well-deserved middle finger. Aramaki does the same as well, pretty much, when he tells him his security detail is rescinded as he's been ruled out as being a part of a terrorist attack, much to his dismay. We get some more lore behind him when the Major asks who he is. He tells the Major that during the war, he was called Colonel Red Demon, who ran the old investigations division. He paved the way basically for where Aramaki is. They were called in to investigate the Tomliand incident. Now, the wrinkle here is that they won't be off this case because they had found SOS written in blood inside the Tomliand's heads. Now, that's a very curious message in the bottle that acts more as a cry for help, does it not? Their next lead is Hanka Precision, because, of course. And wouldn't you know it? Hanka Precision has their own little show going on. They're having a party with Chief Inspector Kobunuma of the Shipping Inspection Division at Hanka. He too wants to know the reasons for the SOS signal, and thus uses a truth serum. We get some world building when Kobunuma threatens to report this to the Union, to which Hanka says, with their tech, they won't need unions for 300 years. Oh boy. This is corporatism right here, my friends, which I don't know if you didn't know this, countries without powerful unions more or less are effectively countries with slave labor. So this is what this guy wants. And I would know. I live in a country with near non-existent union presence. Even more cold of Hanka is how he doesn't mind if they go berserk. He just cares about if they can still analyze their brains afterwards. That's the issue. Kobunuma then tells Hanka as the drugs take effect that he was asked by people named Link and Adam, who are in stage 4 imprinting, to rig all 23 units to go berserk with an SOS in them. Peculiar, is it not? In return, the two girls let him do something, and we can really only guess, but I think we know exactly what they offered. My guess is that they used their bodies, and this guy is a PDF file based on the implications of the scene. It's a cyberpunk world. It's likely to happen. Batou and Togusa arrive on the scene as they're arguing about class systems. In particular, the whole young versus old thing. I love this stuff. Togusa argues that wisdom and age does not equal them being right, just as Batou says that even monkeys show respect to elders. Now that's an actual interesting comment that I particularly found fascinating. While society will put people into us versus them for corporate gain, and corporate manipulation, the truth is that both work in unison. What Batou was saying here, well, he has a fantastic point. In other species like monkeys, they show elders respect because elders serve an important function, just as they do with humanity. With humans, the elders are important because they are a valuable source of knowledge, companionship, and stability for grandchildren. Most men, as an example, will often tell you that they love their grandmothers and were very close to them growing up or are even now. That is no mistake. That is a healthy and functional family. But still, is Togusa wrong? I think he's simply showing his youth here by not being able to fully realize the function of the elderly and the older in human society. Togusa is more or less guns blazing, which we see later on, and wants to live life and blaze his own path with his own ideals. Is that wrong? No, but Batou isn't wrong either. Togusa is generalizing and not intuiting the nuance that is of old versus young, whatever that means. The PDF file is then shot in the head, killing him as they eventually are able to take down the perp, with Batou saving Togusa's life. He then asks Togusa that if what he saw, his wife and daughter flash before his eyes, is actually just the Grim Reaper. The Fujikoma then goes to check the perimeter with fast car noises, very adorable, and then questions the assassin. Batou tortures him, but just like he was tortured by this person called the Dentist, he spills the beans that the killing was payback for his Yakuza boss getting attacked by a Tomliand. His boss being one of the special clients, by the way. He also says that they traffic children in and also smuggle drugs. So they go into the facility to find Link and Adam being beaten by a blonde lady, which Togusa kicks the ass of. Now seriously, Togusa, such a damn good fighter and can handle himself when he's not knocking himself out in a Fujikoma. This was an awesome fight. But while that's happening, Batou follows the kids to find a ghost dubbing system, which makes mass copies of info-degraded ghosts, meaning they smuggle in kids and copy their personalities to other bots until their brain dies. Then they just throw them out. Batou then tells the kid that what they did ended up with people getting hurt, but from their perspective, they were the first to be hurt by them, which is fair. Togusa jumps in like an action hero because the room is treated, and thus no signals can get out of the room. They then go on a chase as the CEO, Hanka, is making a break for it with 4 other bots he needs to bribe the police and Yakuza for. The entire thing fails because CEOs pretty much are all incompetent jackasses. He falls into the river, which is coated in 15 feet of sludge, which I'm sure Hanka was partly responsible for. Our final scene and really the overall closing message of the episode rounds out this entire episode, and for me makes it, I think, the best episode of the series thus far. They basically end up slamming the Colonel as they're able to tie him to Hanka, so they take him to court. And as they leave his place, the Colonel says that, like children and robots, he too will be where he is in due time. Though what Aramaki says, I think, is a more accurate and hopeful message, at least for me. He tells the Major that humans are the only ones capable of self-reflection, and thus must stop to reflect once in a while. Because when humans become obsessed with something, they either devote their entire lives to money or their entire lives to consuming. Self-reflection is the tool that stops this from happening, so developing a self-awareness and mindfulness is a necessary part of life. This solves the cycle of young versus old introduced in the episode as well. Through self-reflection, all disagreements can be resolved to some extent, because the alternative is obsession, and then turning out exactly like the Colonel, unhappy and bloated, just as the bots who were cast out and left to rot until their souls had died. You can check out my other Ghost in the Shell explain videos here, and my video explaining the Ghost in the Shell timeline and how all of the series connect to each other. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.